Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad you can join us today. My name is Amy Levere, and I serve as Chief Philanthropic Services Officer of Your Community Foundation. Today is July 20th, and this is Let's Talk Farming, Justice, and Land Access for July of 2021. It's hard to imagine that we've already been well into these summer months, hot and steamy for sure. We're very happy today to have with us Krista Nunez, who's director of Cuba International, for a conversation on sustainable agriculture, youth education, systems approach, access, equity, and opportunities in all types of work. Let's Talks are programs that we offer for 30 minutes once a month to allow you to learn from leaders in the mission-driven sector, to learn how pandemic recovery and rebuilding efforts are taking place, and also to center issues of racial justice as we rebuild for more equitable societies. We've held previous Let's Talks on all sorts of issues, like food systems, workers, mental health, and the arts. We've archived these recordings and links on our website. In the upcoming months, we'll have programming on immigration, the environment, and housing. More information will follow as we firm dates up for the fall. We continue to provide this program on behalf of the community. So if you have ideas of speakers or particular sectors within the mission-driven world, please let us know as we're putting together Let's Talks for the remainder of 2021. And now I'll invite Krista Nunez, Director of Cuba International, to share with you about farming, justice, and land access. We'll have a chance for questions and dialogue a little later after Krista's presented. And if you're able to enter those into the chat box, Nancy Masici, my colleague here at the Community Foundation, will be moderating those. So Krista, we'll turn it over to you. Welcome and thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for everyone being here. It's amazing seeing these names. I'm looking at so many people I know and respect in this community. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for being here, cutting time out of your day to hear what I have to say on this topic. It's something that is has always been at the forefront of my mind, helping people live in a way that affirms their dignity, in a way that is healthy, and in a way that really uplifts our humanity and our connections to one another. But it's just great to see folks like Anna Bartel and Jeff Furman and a bunch of other people here. And I know that all of you are extremely busy, so I'll just jump right in. And if you want to get I had sent over a PowerPoint, we can jump right into the presentation and save time for questions later. Please do send your questions again into the chat as they come up. Look forward to talking one-on-one with you after I go through a few points. So yeah, let's talk. I feel like what we've all gone through recently with regard to the pandemic and all the things that surfaced during that time, predatory and violent policing, racial inequities, sexism, racism, anti-LGBTQ community. I think there's a lot of things that have bubbled up to the surface in our community and in the world in general that converge. And so you'd think, why does farming have anything to do with racism or sexism or any of the isms that we can think of? What is farming? You know, that's just how we produce our food. It's what, you know, stocks the grocery stores and makes things easier for us. What is this farming and justice talk? So let's go to the next slide and we can get into some of those fine points. I live at the Learning Farm. We are a center where we hope that this entire community, if you're listening today and can pass it on, not only for yourselves and your families, but this community at large. We hope that everyone will feel at home at the Learning Farm and view us as a place where you can come and spend time and connect to us and to one another and to the land and to our beautiful natural world. We offer a variety of different programs. Um, and I really hope that you consider it your farm home as well. And so please come by and visit us. We really, one quick note about the Learning Farm is our main focus is helping young people and their families to engage healthfully in land stewardship and growing food as a means to support community health and the health of young people. So thank you. Next slide. So when we go into schools, we sometimes we have the students and the teachers close their eyes and imagine what a farmer looks like, or picture in your mind what a farmer looks like. And inevitably, invariably, everybody's like, it's a guy in a tractor, and I say, open your eyes, and I say, you're looking at one. I'm a farmer, and in what ways is my face or me being present in your space, calling myself a farmer? What does that mean? How does that challenge your beliefs? And invariably, there will be a student who will say, it's a white guy, it's a white man who's a farmer, and they kind of look at me a little quizzically, like, can you really be a farmer? Depending on the age group, it's a really kind of a deep stare versus oh, that's cool. And so, as a farmer, I have decided to prioritize not only my voice, but other voices in this landscape of food production, and helping folks really be able to envision themselves in green spaces, envision themselves planting and having the know-how to create food systems of their own creation. And so by prioritizing the voices of the unheard, making sure that folks who have been systemically excluded from land have access and have ways to relearn, because I'd say relearn, because I believe that every one of us comes from a history, whether it's yesterday or a couple hundred years ago, have a history of farming, of hunting, gathering, farming, some sort of agriculture in their background. And so reaffirming who you are is a big part of what we do. And by doing the work of building friendships with folks who are pressed for time, pressed for money, pressed for housing, pressed for a healthy means to feed their family, we are creating new ways for new people to engage in this farming work, and really see a way out of the land and food apartheid, as some people call it, that we find ourselves in today. And along those lines, we kind of see that because food deserts really do dictate how some people eat. And if you live in a place that doesn't have access to healthy food, the statement that you are what you eat really does mean something a little bit more deep than for many others who have no problems with access. And so finding ways to feed folks in a way that uses their own hands is a key element of what we're doing. Next slide, please. This work focuses not only on food and nutrition, which is key and very important, helping people to understand where their food comes from, how to eat it, how their body works, how vitamins and minerals work. But it also focuses on cooperation, creating new ways for people to unify and come together and cooperatively farm, not only learning the practicals of farming, but how to work cooperatively and collaborate with folks that might not have your exact same background, and also creating what we call farmer scholars. So starting from young, starting with families, really exposing folks and creating ways for them to engage practically, and building experience in understanding how all of this works, how land access works, how food systems work, how historically We have eaten and grown food and how those things can change. And so having a really broad view of what this means is really job number one for us, allowing people to have a full understanding and also the practical piece to this and creating ways for them to work together on creating new ways for people to eat. Next slide, please. So we talk about the problem, and what we view as the main problem has been displacement. And I'll kind of just share a smattering of different um, paradigms of displacement that we've experienced as a people, as an American people. We had hundreds of years ago, the European monarchies displaced European farmers from land and created a class of peasants, which brought on, cities and disease, and then that led to land theft from First Peoples, the indigenous peoples of the Turtle Island that we call home now, which led to the transatlantic slave trade. We had kidnapping people from Africa, from their villages and homes in Africa, bringing them to work. And then you had family separation during that time in slavery, and Indian boarding schools separating folks from their families, and on our borders today, separating folks from their families as they're being displaced from homes due to poverty. Jim Crow segregation and redlining as another means to displace people from what they call home and from families that they call home. And now we have climate refugees the world over. Because of our ways of extracting what we think we need from the earth in ways that are damaging, we're creating a new way to displace people from their homes because they just simply can't live healthfully and provide for themselves where they live. The issue is land for us. The issue is place. And the issue really is about creating new ways to access land in a way that is not harmful, in a way that is cooperative, in a way that affirms our communities rather than destroys them. Next slide. So the good news is our program creates opportunities for people to build what we call ecopods, ecologically sound homes built by our own hands in cooperation with folks like Cornell's Human Ecology Department and a local organization called Crowd, Circularity, Recycling, Environment, and a couple other words. I can't remember what their acronym is, but basically connecting people with reused and reusable building materials to create new homes and new communities on land, and connecting people with opportunities to cooperatively farm together. That's the good news. So we kind of understand we come from a dark place. It's been a sad place with spots of light throughout, of course, but really we've decided to take a stand and say, our housing crisis, enough is enough. Our food crisis, our health crisis, enough is enough. It's time for us to work together. It will take all of us. And the people who really need it most cannot wait any longer. So these things are happening right now. We're actively fundraising for our first EcoPod next year. We have a few local folks who decided to donate land, and we're looking to develop a site wherein 10 families will have a 1/4 acre of land to live and develop and cooperatively farm together. There's a lot of work to be done, but I wanted to give you that good news. Next slide, please. So again, it takes a village. It will take all of us. We have been blessed immeasurably with an incredible team of players locally. Ithaca is so full of beautiful people who really know what it takes and can do the work. And I will just name a handful here. Black Hands Universal, Harry Smith, Nia Nunn. They are doing the work of educating the children, building gardens and teaching climate crisis and climate health education to the young ones on an ongoing basis. We're happy to partner with them. Youth Farm Project has been doing this work for over 10 years in this community, educating our young people, providing food, healthy produce in schools for years. And we're just so pleased to be partnering with them. Groundswell Center for Local Food and Farming is a vital partner in their farmer practicum program, is one which we help develop, and are an eager and willing partner in the work that they do. Farms like Van Noble Farm, Devin over there holding it down in Trumansburg, Here We Are Farm, Amanda Davids, BIPOC Community Garden, and also many others. Ithaca Children's Garden, I could go on and on. And not last but not least, Community Foundation of Tompkins County for having this talk and for their support of this program. Next slide, please. So yeah, I think I would encourage all of us to get on land, spend time. I think what we've learned is that when we can come together and learn new things, spend time and just breathe in beautiful green spaces, get our hands dirty in the soil, build something together. That is when community is created. That is when we can break down the barriers of race and class. And when we can really get to know each other, telling stories, sharing ideas and experiences. These are the ways that we can rebuild our community. Next slide, please. So I think I mentioned all of this. Sorry, my slide deck. I think I covered most of this. So yeah, this slide basically, if anybody wants to see it, I can send it over, but this kind of encapsulated all of the programs that I just mentioned. Next slide, please. That's it. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And I would love to answer any questions that you have at this time. And I don't consider this a first and last conversation. I would love to talk with you all more, and please feel free to reach out to me personally. And I hope to be here again one day in future.
Thank you, Krista, for that. Oh my goodness, you have taken us through a whirlwind tour, and I feel like all of us want to put on our boots and come out with you to the farm.
Please do. Be great.
Nancy, I think that you probably have some questions queued up, and if those of you who have questions have not yet put them in the chat, please go right ahead. Nancy?
I do. I have a couple of questions. What would you say to Black and Brown people considering farming in Tompkins County if they're new to the area, and like sources of support if they're inexperienced, and what to sell, and how would you describe the growing climate environment here for a small sustainable farm? That's a lot.
Oh, that's a lot. I'm going to take the first chunk and then I'll take the second. That's a great question. I do have a friend here visiting from Chicago, and I'll just share some things that she and I have been chatting about. She's looking to buy a farmland here in Ithaca. She's a woman of color. She's on Groundswell's board. And we were chatting yesterday about what's here for a Black farmer. What's the climate like? Where should I live? Where is it safe for me to live? Was some of the questions that she was asking, which kind of broke my heart, that we have to ask these questions still today. But I was saying, there are people. My first inclination was to say, stay in Ithaca, stay in the town of Ithaca, or stay at least, somewhere close by. And, I see Trump signs way out there, but I refrained and I said, you know what? There are people of color farming on land throughout this region, and you will see more Black Lives Matter signs than you would have imagined out there in the sticks. I drive these country roads all the time, and not that that's the only sign that indicates a welcoming community, but it is one. And we have Black farmers, we have brown farmers, we have a variety of white ally farmers throughout this region. And I can definitely help connect you to all the folks no matter where you want to live. I know mainly Tompkins County, but I know even outlying, there's folks more towards Albany, Soulfire Farm, you know, there's a lot of folks in upstate New York who are doing this work, and be happy to connect you. I would urge you not to be afraid. I think sometimes when folks that have been considered or viewed as urban people, because of redlining and violence in the South, a lot of us have moved to urban areas for safety over the years, the past 100 years. And, you know, even though that's who folks think we are now, that's not really who we are in our hearts. I think we're agricultural, rural people deep down, and don't be afraid to jump back in that paradigm. I think it's who you are, and I think the fact that you're asking that question does speak to what your heart's desire is. And then the second one, you know, I think that there are a number of different things that grow well here. I think sometimes our region can get a bad rap for being cold for a long time, and you know, you can't grow this here, you can't grow that here, and yeah, you can't grow you know, a lot of tropical fruits and things here. I mean, I heard there's somebody growing bananas in Freeville in a hoop house, but I haven't seen that with my own eyes. But I think that this is good soil, this is rich soil. You know, if you look at some of the history of the glaciers coming through and moving soil around, there's some pockets of really beautiful stuff. I have some deeply rocky soil. My friend Rafa Ponte, his farm is called Rocky Acres Community Farm. We know how to deal with rocks. There's something called soil amendments. We can talk all day about it, but don't be afraid to jump in. You can grow anything you want here within limits. And was there a third part to that question?
So no, I think you touched on all of it. A second question, what interest is there in the BIPOC community in farming, or is there more interest in growing your own vegetables for your own consumption?
So if I understand it right, you know, are BIPOC folks looking to farm more so now than ever? I would say absolutely resoundingly yes. I think there's a movement happening right now amongst BIPOC folks who realizing the current food system just doesn't work for a vast majority of folks, and even rich folks. You know, we had a previous president recently, you know, choose to eat McDonald's even though he could afford differently. And that just speaks to our American culture. And so I think there's a revolution now. People want to eat better. They want to eat for life, and they want to do it. We want to do it with our own hands, and really close the gap between what we eat and how we obtain it. And then there was a second part to that question too. Could you repeat? I'm sorry.
Sure. Is there more interest in just growing for your own consumption?
You know, I think, you know, we have personal choice. It's the beauty of humanity. We can choose to just feed our families, and we can choose to feed the whole world if we want to, and everything in between. I think what you want to do should be what you end up doing. And if that changes, great. But I believe in free choice for everybody. You grow the amount of food that you want to grow for the folks that you want to feed, and everybody should be able to do that. I always urge folks as I teach kids how to grow food. We always have a part of the day in, you know, not only harvesting something, but preparing it together and then sharing it. I think that is the natural flow of things. So as you think about growing food, I would give you advice and urge you to find a means to share, grow more than you need and share it. And it'll make you happier in the end. But I do believe it's your choice.
That's great. And I can ask, I think we have time for another question. What can be done quickly to support Black farmers? For example, do we need to persuade elected officials for farming practices or land ownership? Are these key to moving things forward? What can be done?
Good question. I think it speaks to the question that Laura Branca just shared with me privately. I would say number one, we got to take care of ourselves. We cannot only rely on our elected officials. I mean, in a perfect democracy, yes, they would represent us in a way that actually is fair in what we ask them to do. But people being people, you know, sometimes government folks are unreliable. So I think we do have to take care of one another. I think this is where reparations comes in. There's a group of apple cider, hard cider makers locally, Melissa Madden, David Moss, and Autumn Stochek, who are actively doing reparations through their cider. And there's a number of different people who want to jump into that. There's folks who are signing over the deeds to small portions of land that they're not using. There's different people who are using what they have, leveraging what they have in order to support people who don't have enough. And so I think that's number one. Number two is absolutely create connections with your government officials, really hold them to what you asked them to do when you voted for them. And there's folks who are really doing what they were elected to do. Here in our local community, our Assemblywoman, Anna Kelly's is, I believe, really working hard for our community and talking to folks on the ground and talking about how to use her power for local farm communities. So, you know, as we continue to do this work, we will do all of the above.
Krista, you have given us so much to think about, and these connections that you've brought and the connections around this virtual screen. Please, please keep these going. And thank you, each of you, for making time to be here with us today. And Krista, again, thank you for sharing. We look forward to staying involved and learning more from one another. These Let's Talks are recorded. This presentation, along with Krista's PowerPoint, will be made available to everyone. So take care, everybody. Get outside and continue to join others in strengthening our communities, our food systems, and one another. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.